More seconds.
I was gonna say, the song had to be over by now.
See, we are pretty funny, right?
Well, looks aren't everything. Not me.
Go back to Zoom and. Right, meeting is called to order. Welcome, everyone. This is our April 1st Parks and Commons Commission meeting. And we're going to do a roll call for the audio.
On Simons?
Dan Wright.
Meg Simons?
Dan Sterling.
And your absent member? And absent is Adam Alston and John Preble. Okay, we have a couple of announcements. The first one is regarding our agenda for today. We're going to be adding a agenda item, a short presentation by Rick McClung here, Public Works. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and that report will.
Just.
Could you print that up real quick for us?
Is this you serious? Okay. Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna add it later.
There you go. So, yeah, after agenda item 1, Rick will give a short presentation on his report regarding the Ocean View Drive 804 delineator vandalism. Yeah. Okay, and couple other announcements. We have a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Crystal Corner on this Saturday, on the 5th at 2 o'clock. And one other announcement I just learned of, Rosa was planning to be here today, but she could not because her sister had a baby. So Auntie Rosa, congratulations. Okay, let's see. Next would be a public comment. Is there anybody? Looks like not online. No? Okay. Okay, and then next we want to look at our March meeting minutes and see if there were any questions or changes needed there. I just saw the one, Kimmy, on number 1, just editing Parks and Commons instead of City Council.
That was changed already.
Okay,
Yeah.
per our email, that's right,
Yes.
and that was after this. Okay. Were there any other comments by commissioners? No. Okay. Next into our report section, we will start with the Commons report. Any questions on that?
You got a question? Who drew up the report and what do we do about it?
The Commons report is done by Rosa, who's our liaison with the city. And Rosa is giving us her action items
Okay.
and things she has done. And so this is our opportunity to read and understand and ask any clarifying questions.
Excellent.
Okay. Next report then would be our work group reports that are all coming together in that one link, which is really helpful. So thank you for getting that all running smoothly, Bobby. Mm-hmm.
Slow and steady wins the race, right?
Yes, yes.
Isn't that slow? It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about all that you have coordinated and collaborated. It's not slow at all. Good point, Ron.
Thanks.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I would like to just point out real quick for the work group report is there are two new projects that have been I've been approached on under the Keeping Yachts Beautiful group work group. One is they have a desire to work with the city and the CDK property owners to clean up the area where the Christmas tree is. It's pretty weedy there and unmaintained throughout the year. And the proposal is to put some gravel or crushed granite or something in that space, get it cleaned up and have some benches there throughout the year since it's kind of a open unused space. It could be just like a little seating area. And so that has been a request for a project. And another one is in front of the Dublin House. The property owners approached Keeping Yachts Beautiful in the city about doing some terraced beds and to the north of their property that there is no beds there currently and it's pretty unsafe there that it just drops off. And they noticed the work that was being done both in front of C-Note on behalf of the city and the 4th Street area and have inquired about that. And you know, they are hotel owners and pay a lot into our transient lodging tax. And I think that could be something that could be justified in this next fiscal budget out of the beautification line.
Whose property is that?
It's a city easement.
Okay, so the city
Yes.
owns the property.
Okay, yeah.
So those are two projects that are being proposed at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we talking about hardscape terracing or like the lumber instead?
Very similar to what was done out in front of the
C-Note.
C-Note.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, moving on then to well, were there any questions or comments? Trails? Yips? Up? Yep.
Reiterate what I said at the bottom, we feel well supported, which we appreciate. As far as the Ashbury Walkway goes, I did submit the grant officially on Friday.
Well done, Bob.
Yes.
Really proud, which I think really paid the best in science.
Time for me that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
No.
I feel you're very cautious, generally. Cautiously.
I have a question on the estuary walkway. There's a line here that says ADA self-evaluation is opening FOMO Civil West. Can somebody tell me, I mean, FOMO, doesn't that mean fear of missing out?
Yes.
So is that a typo? What should that say? You guys see where that is? It's like the 5th bullet point under overview of activities. Bob, you know, this is being recorded, right? Anybody tell me what that means?
I'm not seeing.
Okay,
Sounds like you'll have to ask other
Oh,
ones.
I see where you're talking about. I think that's just a typo. Yeah, but it's coming from Civil West, the
It's
self-evaluation
opening-
is coming from Civil West.
from Civil West. All right, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We get any insight as to the competitors for the grant money?
I can tell you is that your $4 million bill, you're 15. The last year was definitely the 6 side. And it sort of depends on, you know, who decided to apply.
Yeah.
And the way they do things, they just rate them and they go down and listen to them and money's out. They don't say, we could do these two instead of this one or anything like that. It's just straight. Rank them and go to the money runs out.
Wow.
Bob and I are going to start working on the presentation, though. That's how optimistic we feel about it.
We're gonna do it anyway.
Great, great, yeah.
That is important.
And we initiated the underground powering of utilities in that area, so we can.
Good.
Mm,
Mhm.
very good.
Streetlights. No, I'm initiating it. Oh. Really, okay, cool.
Mhm. Well, and back to trails, just Bob, because you're here, and I did hike the Amanda the other day, and the Amanda Trail looks so well maintained. The Amanda Gathering area is just incredible, and it feels, I mean, there's an ongoing maintenance, I know, but just great, great job, really, yeah.
And we do have a new work group on here for the commons under stage storage, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is. Okay. Anything else? No?
I actually have a question. This would be on the landmark property. They mentioned option C plan. Do we know what that is?
The work group, looked over a few plans that Kevin Shanley had put together for the, landmark and a few were just absolutely not possible for the way that the parking, laid out. And option C was the one that was possible, and we would like to continue working on and evaluating and massaging for its needs, so.
Is that available somewhere if someone wants to comment on?
It will be, when the time's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, then moving on to our new business. Our first item is to discuss and propose a plan on how our commission will oversee the city parks. So it's clear to everyone, the city parks need consistent oversight for their maintenance needs. So we're going to revisit the best way that PCC can support and interface and work with trails and yips as well as the city. So before we go any further, I'd like to open it up for discussion. We have allotted about 15 minutes for this item, so keep that in mind as we're moving along.
Can I mention the proposal that is on here on the agenda?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so this isn't where we have to land. It's just a starting place. And it would be to have PCC do some kind of a overseeing in whatever way we might choose to do that. Split it up together, whatever. And then there would be a communication pathway whereby if some needs, trails and yips would be contacted, whether through Bobby or through Bob or whoever it is deemed that we should contact for maintenance items having to do with plants, weeds, trails, steps, things that trails and yips does. And if there were other areas like infrastructure repairs or safety issues, or maybe whole new like ideas about how the park should look or whatever, that would go to Bobby and she would just decide where that's going to go, how she's going to approach it. So that would be just a simple way to delineate. So as a starting place, and we can talk about whether that's good or just go completely to a brand new item that might be better than that, but it's there if we want it.
Yeah, I just jump in and say that I've always liked the idea that we were watching the parks and then reporting to theoretically to Bob about what maintenance items we've noticed that need to be taken care of. I don't see a reason why that isn't a good solution, so I would still advocate for that.
Okay.
Bobby, would you be the person to direct parks and, both? Like, should we go straight to trails yips if we find something, or should everything funnel through the city manager?
Can I think on that?
You sure can. Yeah. But it does seem like a good idea, like all of us keeping an eye on surveying the properties.
I think it's good. I just think it would be nice to, for me to think about like a good structure.
Mhm.
Right, and,
The process.
and honestly, the way this proposal is written, I think kind of tries to address that by saying, you know, larger, I'm using my own language here,
Mhm.
larger projects would definitely come to you first, but like if we noticed that, some weeding needed to be done in a park, you know, do we really need to bother you with that, or can we just take that to the trails work group and let them put it on their schedule for the next trails? That's what I thought. So it would be easier for you.
That's the goal of the work group, is to have that, be able to have that process through the work group where those type of things could be reported to them. They're doing the work and they're reporting to me through the work group reporting process. And then for the larger, any kind of bench, large, heavy things, safety things, that can go through me and our speed team, and also we can coordinate.
Right, you guys are in close communication. I think Bob had a comment.
Yeah.
That makes good sense to me.
Yeah.
And one question is, want them to CC you or just tell us and we'll put in the report later?
Just to let you know, and I trust that if there's something that comes to you that you feel like you need to
Yeah.
talk to me about, that you will.
Right.
Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this system of approaching. But and in the motion, I would say that I think we probably should have a second motion that would talk about specifically how we're going to oversee them. Like, we know where it would go. The question is, how do we oversee it? And
So my comment to that would be, I mean, that makes sense, would be clearly in-house. So would be something that we would work on, that Trails doesn't need to know, that Bobby doesn't need to know. It's simply, how are we gonna, are we gonna each pick a park and take a look at it like we talked about before? Or are we gonna have field trips where we go as a group and walk 3 parks and see how they're doing, or some combination thereof?
would it make sense for us to decide that now? Or do we want to put that for later, or what do you think?
Would it also make sense to include this in our new guidelines?
It could,
I would do, yeah, I think so too.
make a lot of sense.
I don't see a reason with where we're at this point to delay unless I'm wrong. Is there what's your comment or?
Question, how would we relay the communication to Trails? Are we talking about, on paper, a motion from the group, or are we talking about just pick up
I
the
would
phone?
think an email, is that, an email.
Semi-informal, I would think, we don't need a document, we don't need notarization, and a lawyer to approve it and all that stuff.
So
Like trail, go back and check it. It just feels like a formal request more than a text or hey, this needs to be done. And then it's just like, because you might get told that in amongst other things happening, but if you take it as an email, then it's like that item.
Yeah, email is a good decision, I think, for this
Yeah.
group too, yeah.
I have another clarifying question. I'm gonna use an example. I know from walking in the wetlands, when you take the trail through the woods over to, is that 4th Street? Over to where you're looking at the Lions Club and such. That trail has like high roots through it.
Mhm.
And I remember about a year ago that Mayor Birdie wrote an article talking about somebody was saying that, something should be done about the tripping hazards on the trails, which was like, come on, they're a trail. But it does strike me that a nice deep layer of mulch down that trail would protect the tree roots and cut down on a pretty big amount of tripping hazards. Would that just be an email over to Bob? Or would that be something that we do here more formally?
Question I have is, if you guys say this needs to be done, are we expected and required to do it, but we evaluate ourselves?
That's a good question.
Yeah, my feeling on that one is that it's a suggestion. We are advisory only. It's not we don't get to direct. And Bobby can, but we can't. And so if you choose not to do it, you could, it might be a polite thing to say, well, we're aware of that one, but over the years, we decided it's better to leave it as it is. It actually causes less damage than if we were to, whatever, and just let us know. And then if people here get all out of whack about that, then they would talk to Bobby, but not gonna happen.
We could go over your head, Bob, and I don't know.
It's not gonna happen. I just think that that's a perfect kind of example of communication, and with what Ron was kind of relating, Dan, for you, we had talked about a long time ago, because we were excited about the idea of each of us kind of picking a park, like that would sort of be like our baby, and then we would just go there and then we would just make sure that we attend to it. And if there are things that we feel need, again, just report it to Bobby, report it to, more likely to Bob. And that kind of a thing.
That
So,
raises a question. So let's just say I'm watching Sunset Park South and I see maintenance needs for the park. Do I bring those to our commission? Do I go directly to Bob? How would that structure? And I'm just asking this as another thought. It's like, if we're each watching a park, then do we have the authority to go directly to Trails and say, I noticed this, or do we have to bring it to the group first?
Bob?
That's
Yes,
what-
thank
I
you.
would say too, because
Me too.
you don't need to spend time. I mean, if that's failing, or if their expectations are ridiculously higher than everyone else's, there's something that's not calibrated, that we should discuss here so we're calibrated. But beyond that, yeah, I think this is just like, this is not hard stuff. And I agree with that.
How about you CC the co-chairs?
Yeah.
And any communication.
Great idea.
That's
So
perfect.
it's on the table.
Not-
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
that's a great idea.
To, maybe it would be worth, I know that at one point in time when you guys were discussing the, parks that one person would be in charge of observing, keeping track of, resurrecting that spreadsheet and, just having a list of all the different parks, who's in charge of it, and then they could make notes in that live document of things that they've seen or that they've requested just for tracking purposes. That the whole group can see so that they know what's been being tracked and and been asked and.
Yeah, Bob?
You need a chart that had a few months.
The one that you hated, yeah.
Can I address what you were about to say? Because I was just thinking,
Reader.
you don't need it to be, so I was asked by someone prominent to do that, just so you know that. To make it so it would actually be really, really like on point. You could have a drop down menu, the whole thing. This could be so simple as to exactly what Bobby said. And it's just like a Google Doc, and it just says date, name of the person, name of the park, suggestion. And frankly, if we had you cued in on it, we wouldn't even have to email you. You could just take a look at it, unless you'd rather us email you every time. Okay, we can just do that.
We could use it for in-house
Yeah,
tracking and not have to necessarily impose it on anyone else.
that sounds good.
Well, and then it could even live as a report on your agenda, as, a link onto your agenda, and then not that you have to really go over it, but you could see it each month.
That's,
Okay.
Dan?
This conversation reminds me, the driftwood bench at the 7th Street Ocean View Park is broken with rusty nails sticking out. I saw that 3 days
Talking about
ago.
the Peace Park?
Yeah, the Peace Park.
Yeah,
I've already
did it
alerted,
today.
Okay, good.
Bob to that.
Excellent.
Yep.
But that would be a perfect example,
It is.
whether you, if let's say Meg was in charge of Peace Park or whatever, or that was she was, you might say to her, like, just to give her the credit, say, hey, this is what I saw over there today. And then she could say, well, that's a Bobby thing because it's a safety, and that kind of thing. And we could all just sort of participate in that way. And then it would be written in.
Glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Also a good example of should that come.
Well, if it's repairing a bench, my guess would be that would go to Bob,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
or rebuilding it or replacing it.
I will forward the email to you. Okay. Okay,
That's good.
Yeah, Bob.
So
I know, it's lovely.
so there'll be some overlap of things. Maybe things that you didn't over fast enough, you may already be thinking about it, you may already have done it, you know, going in, not doing them at all,
Mhm.
or coming later.
I would just suggest that, there can be overlap. So, you guys should continue doing what you normally do. If we don't give you a heads up and you find something that you want to do, you would certainly just still do it. So they wouldn't have to come to us for permission
No.
to do something that we're supposed to be watching out for. So it'd be kind of dual responsibility in a way.
Yeah,
It's just another set of eyes so that we don't have to visit every park.
That's the idea.
yep,
It's good to get another set of-
yep, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so do you want to make that motion?
Yes, so the motion would be that we would determine maybe at a future meeting about how PCC members will split up the parks. And we will be overseeing that park. And then we will have a Google Doc that will show who is assigned to each park. And the person who is assigned will write in notes so that we are all aware of the concern or whatever it is. And that person also will be in charge of contacting either Bob, or we'll figure it out. Bob, you want to get it, or you want Barbara to get it, or both of you get it, whatever you think, or Lauren, I don't know, whatever you think. And we'll figure that out maybe after. And
Goes to Bob.
okay, then goes to Bob, email to Bob, and that'll be on the chart, so it's easy to see. It'll be a link, and then we'll also have the other one for city manager, and it'll differentiate which goes to what. And the only other thing would be that if you notice something, mention it to the person who is the park counselor or whatever.
Person.
Park person. I don't want to be, yeah. And they'll add it.
Avoiding the A word.
They were
You're so
And,
smart.
brilliant, Ron. And then that'll be it. And we'll have a beautiful record, and parks will be in great shape, and everyone's happy.
So now I would ask you to state your proposal.
That was kind of it. I was writing all that
That's
down.
an awful long proposal.
Bob, anything at this juncture in where we're at with this?
Thinking about bathrooms at Fred, we should probably have a big.
This bathroom was last serviced on.
Is that April Fool's Day joke, Bob? Okay, all right.
So a shortened version would be that PCC will, they will adopt the parks and notify the proper people to address issues within the parks. And we'll also have a document that will, codify each item that is on there.
Okay,
I second.
all in
Okay.
favor? All right,
Okay.
The gavel.
And,
Item passed.
item passed.
Once, only once.
Would it be okay if I was to,
Used to read Robert's Rules of Order clearly.
So we were,
rebound.
would it be okay if I was to create an initial document and then just send it out among us and then get input on how to make it better, and then we'll make it official? That sound good? And I'll send a copy to you once we all say we like it, if that sounds good.
And then it'll be on Google Docs, so we can just access it and add on to it right there on our own devices, and everyone will be able to
yep,
see that.
real time,
Yeah.
live document.
I like it. You have to teach me how to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have a training session.
You do that.
And that goes for anyone. if anyone doesn't have working knowledge of Google Docs, yeah. It's so brilliant.
So good.
Done, team.
Okay, all right, Rick. If you could come up front, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Rick.
And it's online already in your packet.
Just
Well done, Kimmy.
Wow.
Well done.
It's up. Yeah.
So Rick, a quick question before we start. Is the pit delineators what's on the 101?
Yeah,
Okay, just that's what I thought. I wanted to confirm that.
the boss cut that earlier, so I have. that. Okay, came to this meeting to just do the introduction.
Mhm.
And hopefully maybe on the next meeting, you can have a discussion about it. It does have the possibilities of being, heavily talked about in the public. It was before when we were deciding, what to do over there. But the vandalism is getting worse. If we invest in the safe hit delineators to replace the current ones, I'd like to suggest that maybe we move over to concrete blocks. And my real preference would be Jersey barriers. You guys know what those are?
Mhm.
They're like on the highways.
Mhm.
I think those are better, but the concrete place here in Newport didn't carry those. That doesn't mean we can't, yeah.
Jersey walks are the ones that are thin
Yeah.
and tapered.
Yeah, the ones that they move around and
Yeah.
they can.
That would
Yeah.
definitely be more aesthetically pleasing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
You wouldn't have to have these like lined up though, right? You could have a
No.
pretty good gap between them.
Well, I was thinking, the ones that we're looking at were 6 feet long, put like a 4 foot space in between that's not wide enough for a car to go in there.
Yeah,
But wide enough for bicycles and people to walk in between.
Mhm.
So they can get on the trail, leave the trail anytime they want.
and the calculations here take that into account.
Yeah, yeah. And on the way over here, drove by, and there was 46 of them broken.
Wow.
Last I talked to Craig, it was 38, so that means
Yeah.
even more.
That's
And
So yeah,
only
these guys.
were 125.
Yeah, there was 10 more.
Unreal. Are we watching them do it in
We
real
didn't catch
time?
this one.
Yeah.
We did the first
And I attended the last council meeting and really started thinking about when they started talking about cameras and recording and capturing people. That's not really what we do, you know? And it can turn into a mess, actually. And, but it's public opinion if you guys want to do concrete blocks or Jersey barriers. I'll also be going to the Public Works and Streets Commission to introduce the idea. But obviously I'm favoring the concrete because it's a one-time shot and hopefully there'll be no more maintenance after that. Maybe some tagging.
That was my next question,
Yeah.
because the Jersey barriers are relatively smooth surface, where these rocky ones, it'd be harder to tag.
Yeah, and you know, they do sell stuff to wash it, but
Maintenance
it could
costs.
turn into a maintenance thing, you know? But we wouldn't have to replace,
Yeah,
or if one got so tagged that you couldn't clean it, you know, it's only, $110 to replace it. And the safe hit delineators are 45 a piece, but there's also, $75 for each delineator, and that it takes up staff time and equipment. And the staff time is something that we really don't have a lot of. So when a maintenance item comes up, we'd like to try to make it so we don't have to come back around to that very often.
makes sense.
And what else?
Hopefully, one of these vandals would think that their truck was smarter than the delineators, and they'd ram it into there and destroy their vehicle.
Take that.
That would be
And
instant
we will put
karma.
reflectors on whatever, so you can see it at night.
Mhm.
And so maybe start thinking about it and next month. Come back by and see what you say.
So the safe fit delineators are like the ones on the highway?
Yeah, yeah, and when we first got those, I said I was going more for Ocean View Drive, but I wanted to wait and see how good it did first. You would have been a nightmare if I said, I guarantee it. And then they break roads.
Well, Craig apparently said that they've all been hit at least once.
Yeah,
they're still there.
Or if we go Jersey barrier, or even these, sometimes like on the highways, after 5, 10 years, they get really dirty looking. They don't look very nice anymore. And is there a way like to sandblast them or just kind of make it look,
You can pressure
wash them to make them look like new? I mean, I think that would be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
the truck that has a pressure washer. Cool.
Okay.
Bob?
Well, there's no bad vandals on curb there. Is it because people aren't vandalizing them or they hold up better or?
They hold up, they bounce back.
My opinion is that it's the
Yeah.
highway, it's more
Yeah.
visible.
Yeah, I agree with you.
More.
Yeah, that's just my personal
Yep.
opinion on it.
Oh, go ahead.
My question is, and I don't know the answer to this one, is I know you can seal concrete. I assume that somebody's come up with what I'm gonna call a specialty product to seal concrete
Yeah.
with tagging in mind.
Yeah.
Because if your paint can't penetrate the concrete, it's a breeze to pressure wash it. I'm not sure what that would add to cost, but long-term, it might save on maintenance for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
And the only thing
Might be
I'm
able to-
familiar with is standard concrete sealers, but
They might be able to
That
dip
does have a
those
nice
before they
little
bring them
film
out.
on it.
that'd be
A
kind of
lot
cool.
easier.
If not, we spray them.
Yeah, that'd take a lot more work though.
Great, yeah.
I like about the concrete, I will be honest, the first time I heard the concrete, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then watching this continual battle of the vandalism on those delineators that we have, it's a no-brainer that we cannot keep doing that same type of delineator. But what has really grown on me about this is seeing how many people sit on them out by the landmark property. And
Yeah.
The seating option that allows
Mhm.
all along.
Better than
that whole
boulders.
entire road, people can just sit and watch the sunset anywhere they're wandering.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what's growing on me. that
Yeah,
thought.
people like me, I have walking issues and I get to take little breaks.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
that reason, I would think that the Jersey barrier would be less desirable because the big flat concrete blocks make a lot better seat than a Jersey barrier.
Right, I was looking at these.
Yeah, these.
They really don't have that much more for your butt because you've got this kind of spine that
Oh,
Yeah, they're designed to stack vertically.
oh, gotcha. So they're not flat on
It's
top.
like a ton of.
you really have around the same amount of actual inches, maybe less.
And the jerseys have a decent butt perch.
Yeah, I just pulled up this Jersey.
Oh, yeah, it's
barrier,
wide enough.
So,
That's
For some of us.
for some of us.
the technical name right there for it. Yeah, butt perch. Nice, have an expert on board.
That is very helpful.
I'll Google that.
We need to come back to this next month, or could we just go ahead and give someone make a motion, just say like we would.
What do you
These?
feel that you need time? If we all
Well-
agree, would you?
What I can do to take care of the public thing is get your guys' approval. And then in another week, I'll get Public Works and Streets approval, hopefully. And then we can put it in the paper and see what type of pushback comes back. Good ideas.
So
Yeah.
there's no reason we can't accept it now and it's still gonna go through process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there any chance that there's another brand of block that doesn't have the top splines on it?
Well, they're made for retaining wall.
Right, yes,
And so that little thing keeps them from moving
right,
around.
but nobody's making one without that?
Well, I haven't explored it, and I
Okay.
still have to find where they sell the Jersey barriers. They sell the blocks in Newport, which is convenient, but we need to get what we want.
Yeah.
Also even though these are sort of prettier on the outset with the stone look, my concern would be that if there was tagging, it'd be much more difficult to make them look good than it would with just the Jersey barrier. It's a smooth surface, and then with the coating you were talking about, I don't know, my preference,
Yeah.
even though I do like that, I think in the long run, we'd be better off with the Jersey.
I'll explore and try to find them.
I think we should,
Mhm.
I suggest that we wait to make a decision until Rick has all the information.
Okay.
So how about we do it, put it on next month?
That's fine.
That works. Yeah, I was just gonna bring up the concept of perhaps we could make a little more than 4-foot gap between them, which would save money because if somebody's driving down, Yahawks Ocean Road there, you can't turn and come straight into that opening. So anybody coming in there is gonna come in at an angle. So 5 feet might be perfectly fine. And that would make,
Have the boulders there,
Mhm.
people did it.
People found a way.
Between the boulders.
Yeah.
Smart
they were-
cars, smart cars.
Smaller ones, okay.
Are we?
Okay.
I'm trying to spit through
You
the.
want to have Ron make a motion?
What I did-
Let's do it next time we vote on it.
You want to make a motion
That we vote on
that
it
we
next
vote
time.
on next?
Okay, yeah, my motion would be that we put this on the agenda for next month and ask Rick to come back and give us any updates that he has, and then we'll basically be ready to vote on it. It shouldn't take
I
very long.
like
Doesn't
that
need to be a
because it
motion.
gives
You
this
can just
time
plan
for
to do
public.
that.
Okay, she says it doesn't
You
need to
don't
be a
need
motion.
for that. You
Okay.
We can
Just plan, okay.
Just table it till next month.
Okay.
Okay,
Bob?
great.
We can see them right down here at the landmark and see what they look like.
But location, really, yeah.
Yeah.
George, did you have another?
I'm just gonna spitball on here, if Jersey barriers would actually be an opportunity for some public art too, as a mural.
Sure.
True.
It's an idea,
So,
especially in Yahats.
and I love the idea of placing a couple, because then we can actually see
Yeah.
how the walking space.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick's got to find them first if we're going to use the jerseys, so
Yeah.
we still need probably. Wait, Jersey, not the Jersey barriers, those are the blocks.
Yeah.
The ones that they show the picture of.
Yeah,
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 yeah, and they're friendlier on cars if they roll a wheel up on it.
Yeah.
true, yeah,
they won't do what I did to my van.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, I hope
aesthetically,
this
they're
was
nice.
helpful, Rick.
It was great, and I'll see you guys next month.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow, is-
Right. Next up on this rodeo is Bobby, our city manager, to review some city council goals related to Parks and Commons.
No.
It's 2:40. Good. Yes, we're right in there, yeah. Good, good.
It's been a good meeting so far. Feels good.
I
Yeah,
just said to Dan, I said, wow, is this Parks and Commons? We're being so efficient.
Round of applause. everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're not there yet.
April Fool's Day, so it's just really a joke. It's not real.
Okay, no more fun.
Now, come on now.
Okay, I get it.
So thank you for having me back again. I feel like I've been a regular attendee here. This has been great. So this, what I'm sharing today, is a little bit of the city council goals that they put in place from their 2024-2025 goal setting session in January and adopted in February. And this I now have done for both the Planning Commission and the Public Works and Streets Commission. And it's been a really great place to reach out to our volunteers that are energized and enthused and here to help. And they're, as you'll see, I'm sure you've already seen the documents that have been published on the city council goals. There's a lot for us to tackle this year. And really we, as you know, have a small city staff. And while we are small and mighty, we're also small and can use support and being efficient as possible and recognize that being able to lean on the volunteers is how we can get more done faster. This is just, I've added to this, presentation that I started, with you all, a few months ago now. It started with the organizational chart, presentation and roles and responsibilities, and I've added to this. So I'm just gonna kind of breeze through this a little bit, just for a recap, the organizational structure for the city with the city council as the governing body, city manager working with both the city council and the city staff, our departments, and then all of our departments having varying different commissions to work with and to support and the city work that's being done. I don't know if there were groups on here since I was here last. They go directly to me. And that's on all of the different realms of work groups that can be done. You all are being reported to on ones that are relevant to Parks and Commons, but we just recently have had a couple more that have evolved, and those will be reported to both planning and public works and streets. There's a lot of keys in here. So because those are more relevant to those specific commissions, they will be reported to them. And then again, this brief overview of the roles and responsibilities and how we all work together. This is a broad stroke. This is working with the city council, city manager, the city community spaces coordinator is your direct liaison to the city, working with her as much as possible, working with her on agenda creations, working with the city recorder to make sure that all of the meetings are posted on the city website, things are sent in a timely manner. And then your roles as the Parks and Commons Commission being an advisory role to the city staff on parks, open spaces, and commons facilities. Making recommendations to the city staff and city council, input and recommendations are appreciated. Community connectors, I think that's one of the biggest and most important roles is your ears and voice to the ground. You're the ones that are out there talking to our residents, and we are too, as much as we possibly can, but we're also working in the field, getting the work done too, in the office and out on the streets. And then again, just being aware and knowledgeable of all of the materials that are coming your way to have productive meetings. And then the budget flow from the different city staff positions to commissions to city manager. Then that's where our finance committees and budget committee come into place, is putting the capital improvement budgets into place and becoming part of our city work plan. Now, this is the new part, and it relates to our annual work plan, our workflow. And it starts when the city council sets and adopts their goals for the year. Those then translate into our city staff's work plan. The things that are identified as in those goals become things that are on our regular to-do list, and making sure that the work that we're doing are being reflected in the city council's goals. When things are coming and being placed on our plate, does that reflect on the city council goals is a good question that we can ask ourselves if something new pops up, to make sure that we're staying relevant with the direction that our governing body wants us to go. And then that through that workflow and that work plan that gets put in place with city council goals, that's when our city staff can sit together and independently, one-on-one with me or as a group, and we can identify things that we can just do in-house, things that we need to hire consultants for, and things that we can rely on our volunteers for, and where the commissions can help us achieve goals. And then I think another really important piece to this flow is that November timeframe when each commission can really sit and generate their own goals and what's important to that commission and their area of work within the city and city staff that can be brought to the city council to consider in their goal setting session. You know, that this year in particular, you know, the question, right, did we get any commission goals? Like, well, no, not really, and I didn't really ask for them either, you know, I think it was mentioned a few times, but it wasn't really a really put into place, like, and so this year I'm gonna really like, hey, guys, really think about those goals, and let's bring them to the city council and make sure that we can have a good thorough presentation of those to the city council during their goal setting session, that so they're taken into consideration and potentially worked into the adoption of the goals that end up being our work plan. So just a flow that will happen. And the more that we stay on this flow and work together, the more we'll be able to achieve together. And then now I will bring up the so the city of Yachats put together a great deal of goals. This year we laid them out a little bit differently than we have in the past or last year. This year we started with a larger focus area that gets distilled down a little bit to the goal, and then it gets distilled down even further into actions and deliverables. And that the point for this is to really make sure they're the SMART goals, they're specific, they're time bound, they're measurable, there's something that we can check back on, there's something that I can take then to the city staff and say, these are our marching orders, like, these are our projects to get done, and there's something really tangible that comes from this listed out action deliverable, so much more than just saying, okay, our goal is to achieve water sustainability. Now that's broad. So if we were just told that, then it would be a lot more open to interpretation. But then when you get the action item of create and implement a street rehabilitation plan and communicate the sequence to public, you know, that makes it that much more specific. And I'm using examples that are not just necessarily related to this commission, but just kind of the structure overall for the goals. And I really like this because with the council, I can bring back a report and to them each quarter during a work session. We could talk about where the goals are, what's being done, who's helping us with what, and just have something that's really tangible and reportable.
Is there a way that we can have this document?
Oh, absolutely. It is on our website.
Yeah.
I can also, do you want me to email it to you right now so you can look at it while?
Or I can just put it on the website,
Okay.
or whatever's easier. It's easier for you to just pop it over.
Pop it over in an email. Yeah. Does anybody else want it right now while I'm?
I would, because somebody's head's in my way.
It's not anything I can do about that.
I'll stop it. Jokes.
Well, it is April 1st.
Exactly. Smart move.
Yeah, you're right at.
Yeah.
Anybody else while I've got this up?
Must be tough to always be right.
No, I'm fine with it.
Really good one. Okay.
I'll have
I
it.
wouldn't know. Because I'm always wrong.
Goodness gracious, so much funding.
One of our core values of our group, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Just like to point out there's 5 members here today.
Oh. Oh.
No implication
Sure.
beyond that.
Sure.
It's a statement of fact.
Really good one.
So there are a lot of goals that I think they kind of cross boundaries per se of different commissions. The livability, I would say it's very strongly focused on into the Parks and Commons group, but there is definitely some things that land in the Public Works and Streets Commission too. So for example, continuing pursuing traffic calming and pedestrian safety measures with ODOT. That's a lot that is happening, that conversation's happening every month at Public Works and Streets, and that's kind of part of their purview. So that's something that I'll continue working with members of that group on. And what we're working on with that is it's me continuing conversations with ODOT and having conversations with them on the best methods for calming traffic, looking at speeds, doing speed evaluations, our speed signs further north and south. Good, because everything that we put has to be approved from them and they have their set of standards. Talking about correcting our current sidewalks in different locations. There are phase 2 and phase 3 identified for the sidewalks. Phase 2 is the south section and phase 3 is the northern section. Which one makes sense to go further? Which one is more affordable to go first? Just evaluating those options. Lori Lane crosswalk has been something that's come up a lot. How does that fit into a sidewalk expansion project? I'm really trying to be conscientious of not going 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So making sure that everything aligns in a way that is appropriate and we don't put in a crosswalk, but then it has to get taken out and changed because sidewalks are coming in, things like that, making sure that every project aligns in a way that it's rolling forward smoothly and productively. So those are things that, are happening. Everything that happens on the street, we want to make sure that we're coordinating with the Central Lincoln PUD to make sure that we have a project in line that we want to match it with what they've got for their overhead infrastructure. If we can take it underground at the same time, those kind of conversations are being had. And also, if their infrastructure is aging out, can they help fund, the balance if we take it down underground, because they would have to restructure it anyways. So maybe we take it down. So those kind of conversations are ones that we're going to be having, and I kind of live in the Public Works and Streets Commission, but I'm always open for having different work groups that cross-pollinate as well.
Question, Bobby?
Yes.
Is just on this particular example with the road and the sidewalks and all that, is there a forum for public input on that?
Not at this point.
Before decisions are made, will there be?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that I have any strong opinions on this.
Oh, God, come on, you never.
Yeah, I think that everything that is large and considerable, and really feel having as much public input is important, and I'll continue that along as we bring projects to the point where they're ready for that kind of engagement. Absolutely. Thanks for that question, Ron. So this 2.2 action item and livability, which is phased down to provide safe access to and use of city infrastructure, parks and trails. One of those action items is evaluate the effectiveness of code enforcement and public safety programs, review existing ordinances related to loitering, dogs, and camping. We have goal 2.3 or action item 2.3 rather, develop a park plan for the landmark property and reapply for the estuary boardwalk grant. So that's moving and shaking. The action item 2.4 is establish and fund a public art initiative and encourage local artists to submit ideas for public art projects. So this would be a development of a work group that would help establish ordinance goals guidelines for this. This would be something, I would see a work group that would, their report would be in the report that comes to Parks and Commons Commission. I see this being a really, cool project to grow on, for y'all. And who knows, maybe there'll be a Jersey barrier project.
Right, yeah.
That'd be really cool. And then 2.5 in this section is begin implementing the civic campus master plan. So budgeting for, well, first we have to put it, adopt it and put it in place. And there's still steps to that. I think that there's a update on your agenda. Yes. And so that the steps are being, put in place for that. And then when it's implemented, the goal is to have it adopted in June. And then when our fiscal year, July 1 starts, each area will have some allocated master plan implementation funds. So it's evaluating and taking the next step from the advisory group to Public Works, or excuse me, Parks and Commons Commission, city staff really looking at what phase 1 implementation suggestions are most tangible, which ones we want to go for, how they unfold and work into the other ones. And then this would be something that'd be really like, I could see being tracked by this commission, checking in regularly. How is the master plan implementation going? Also, making sure that when the group sits down to make the goals for the upcoming year and the CIP budgeting for the next year, that the master plan's being referenced for implementation and really tracking to see what next steps are on that and making sure that this doesn't become a plan that sits on the shelf. So each of the goal sections do have a city council member or two that are rather kind of tasked to work with varying parts of these goals, work with commissions, work with work groups, kind of check in with me on progress. And this livability section is assigned to Councillor O'Shaughnessy and Councillor Whitten Carey. So those would be two folks on our council that feel passionately about this section of goal items. And outside of the livability, we have housing supply, we have environmental stewardship, financial sustainability, public awareness, and alignment. And within these other goal sections, there's a couple that could be of interest to folks here in the Public Parks and Commons Commission. The environmental stewardship, the goal for that is to be environmentally aware in all we do. And one of the action items, goal 4.1 is identify opportunities to expand open spaces, parks, and trails, encourage land donations and conservation easements. And some deliverables on that are identify criteria that will guide the acquisition of property by the city, ensuring the purchase is in the city's best interest. So I see an individual or a work group helping to kind of guide a list of criteria that would help, that we can refer to when a property is being offered to us by donation or purchase, but is it in the city's best interest? And I think for me, when something is approached for me, would you buy this? Would you take this? I want to kind of look at all of these, a handful of criteria and say, does it meet this, and this? What kind of annual maintenance will this cost the city? Who maintains this property? Is it donated? Is it purchased? Is it open space? Is it additional building space? How could it be used? I'd like to have something to refer to. So I could see that being a really great place for people to help. And just in these items like this, it could just be an individual that's like, hey, I'm really interested in that. I'd like to help you with that. And then, or it could be a work group that wants to kind of put some ideas together and brainstorm together. Also on this section, in the environmentally aware in all we do, is review ordinances that significantly impact the environment, such as those related to trees and noxious weeds. And the deliverables are assign the Parks and Commons Commission to review and update, and assign the Planning Commission to review how this affects property ordinances. So this is kind of it would be a collaboration of commissions, and it could be a work group of members of varying different commissions that could work together. And one, bringing them back to each of the commissions to kind of check in and this is what we found, this is what we are working on. I know that when I shared this with the Planning Commission, Lauren Dickinson did offer to work with anybody on behalf of the Planning Commission to work with people on the Parks and Commons Commission to work on these items.
Great.
To form a work group. So that is something that I think would be a really good collaboration between different commissions. Another one, I jumped ahead, 4.3 on here. Prioritize environmental sustainability in all future city construction projects by carefully considering the environmental impact of land use, construction materials, and overall project design. With a deliverable attached to that, develop generalized checklist of acceptable considerations. And again, I have shared this with the other commissions, and I have had members of planning and public works and streets that said, I'd like to be on a work group that works on this line item. So if there was somebody from Parks and Commons too, that would be a really good collaboration between commissions that could support the city in that direction. Then we get down to alignment, and there are some items here. Synchronize and update city policies and administrative rules. With action item 7.2, we have align commission rules and ordinances, beginning with Parks and Commons commissions. And the deliverables assigned to that are ensure each commission's rules and ordinances accurately reflect the advisory role they hold to support the city council and city staff. Evaluate the rules. Are they needed or just a code of conduct? That's something that we're talking about across the board. You've already been talking about here quite extensively, and it's not just this group, it's all the groups. And just the evolution of the city's growth and making sure we're aligning all of our documents that pertain to addressing how any of the commissions, either their rules or ordinances or the code of conduct, making sure they're across the board the same and interpreted the same. And then 7.3 is consider a code of conduct for the members of city council, commissions, work groups, and city staff. So collect and review other city guidelines or refer to the League of Oregon Cities for guidelines and what other cities are doing for code of conducts and the people that represent the cities in various different ways.
Like things like no facial hair,
No piercings, no facial hair.
no tattoos that are visible, those kind of things.
No sense of humor. No.
Okay, once again, I'm out of here.
Yeah, so these are just things that we don't need to assign anybody necessarily right now, but definitely be thinking about these and you would add the document if you are looking through here and you see something that jumps out to you that you'd like to be part of that maybe didn't get discussed here today because it's not as specific towards Parks and Commons, reach out to me and we'll talk and I can absolutely rely on support to get all of these things done.
Wonderful.
Well done,
Yeah.
Bobby. Thank you. This
Thank you.
document is really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that helps clarify a lot of just where you're at and putting process to goals, and that's very helpful.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I do like process, and I'm working really hard to put it in and all the different areas of work, and there's a lot of areas of work.
Well, and it's hard to set it up and get it all lined up, but once you do, it reduces the workload
Yeah.
incredibly.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just helps the flow of everything too. So thank you all.
Super well done,
Thanks, Bob.
Bobby.
Bit related to what you were saying, not just me thing, the code compliance person be the person ultimately responsible for the public interface on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
and that's a public works employee?
It's a combo between Public Works and City Hall.
Okay.
Mhm.
So city hall.
It's the code compliance. He's both.
Oh, I see. I see how two people.
Yeah, one person, just one
Role.
personality.
So it's a little schizophrenic.
Got it. Thanks.
See, I think we should, because
He's out on the street, you know.
Right, exactly, and also, we can just discuss the biggest thing. Do we need a field trip? Do we have to get experts? We'll continue next time, but
Things
just
that are, could be out there. So it helps us help the confidence and the work enforcement, so it helps us help educate the property owners on where they could get into compliance with code before it comes to a complaint, like that enforcement model. So we're trying to help educate people on how they can get in compliance with code rather than coming in first with just the heavy hammer.
Right, thank you.
Mhm. Well, we do have a municipal judgment too, so if we need to come in with a heavy hammer, we can. Yes.
Okay, well, this next item is a continuation of discussion on our reimagined commission guidelines for Parks and Commons. However, before we continue our discussion, we want to take a look at how we want to move forward in these guidelines. So we sent an email out to the commissioners and talked about a couple of ideas. So one idea is to write a brand new document using our comments from our past two meetings as a guide. The other one other option is to use the guidelines draft document that we've all taken a look at as a starting point and revise it. So before continuing on, we really want to get a pulse on the best method or process, to use a word that we're liking here. So yeah, I think you had
Yeah, I just,
responded.
I originally thought that we should start by creating our own ideas before we looked at Bobby,
Right.
and which we did do, at least on some level. And now, as I think of it, I think that Craig and Bobby have given us like a template. And that doesn't mean I want to use their language, but I think using this as a template for what we actually say makes a lot of sense, because otherwise, essentially, we have to recreate the wheel. This way, we can just re-spoke it.
Okay, so kind of option two as we're looking at those.
Yeah, that's, and so I've changed a little bit in that way, and there may be other ways too, but I just think that they've given us an outline that we could utilize.
Okay. And let's see. The other thoughts, I think you had indicated some perspectives.
Yeah, it was just simply that there's a opportunity for integration. There's been input from the members that was laid out in the matrix, and And then there's the sort of guideline that the city manager and mayor offered us. There's a lot of overlap between the two. So I think might just be a matter of integrating the two where it's appropriate. And perhaps deleting some things if we're not comfortable.
Definitely, some deletions.
Including
Yeah.
some of the things.
Yeah.
That's all.
I totally agree 100%. That's kind of what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, as we look at the draft document on our very strong correspondence, it's not perfect, it's not everything, but so why not start where there's strong correspondence and dial it into our specific needs? So are there any other ways of looking at it besides that as we proceed in the discussion? Give you a little opportunity here, Mr. Wright, if you have anything to chime in on. If not, that's fine too.
Not at this time. I didn't have
Yeah.
a chance to review this particular document, so I'm reviewing now.
Okay.
Honestly, I agree with Gio and Ron. I think George is a little more specific around it, but I think that's exactly what I think is the best way to integrate them. It's relatively efficient. And who wants to reinvent the wheel? We've got some good ideas. They had some good
Yeah.
ideas. Let's just find a way to make it work.
Mhm.
It's a good outline.
Yes.
Okay. Well, given that alignment, I guess let's
I have an idea. What if we go back through the checklist that we did the last meeting, one item at a time, and determine which of these we actually want to include in the new document? And it's just an idea, and then we'd know what we're gonna integrate.
When you say checklist, were you referring to
This matrix.
the
from the
power
last
comments
meeting.
piece?
The last-
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it might be this one, isn't it, Ron?
I brought the one from, no, that's not,
Oh, the
Comments
original one.
the
matrix.
comments matrix.
Okay, well, just so you know, this is exactly from the comments matrix, but what it is it combines where we could combine, like, remember we kept saying liaison, or, whatever.
Community input.
Community input, we just say, okay, those all mean pretty much the same thing. So those are combined in this one. And then,
I'm not sure that I'm seeing that. Is it in our packet?
Yes.
What's it called?
it would,
It's also PCC guidelines comments matrix.
so it's the second tab of the document.
Oh, there's another tab.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm not finding it.
Can I come over?
Yes, please. Well, I open
Oh, so no, if
this
you,
document.
okay, instead go to here, because I know what happened. We had changed.
Okay,
but
so
it-
click it here.
Yep, cross-reference up that one,
Okay.
and that will have everything the other one had, but
Okay, now where is the
Now-
second tab? There
Yeah,
it is. Okay, so
but-
that's what you were just showing. me.
yeah.
Okay.
But just so you
I
know,
never saw this.
on this one, I sent this out with an email.
No, I just never saw that there was
Oh,
a second
got
tab.
it.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to make it, oh, this isn't a finger thing. How do you make it?
It actually is, but not all documents do it, just. do
It's April
this.
Fools, we can't do it. And anyways.
Is that
on-
better?
On this
Oh,
side,
yeah.
it's the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's the same
That
as what's
actually
on
is,
this?
it is,
Okay,
it's just a more condensed form.
I got you. All right. Thank you. Oh,
So did you have anything to add to your?
no, I'm still
suggestion?
thinking that we need to go back through these now and decide what the language is for each item, or if we're going to include it or not. I mean, some of these have no votes, some of them have mixed votes, and a lot of them are unanimous. I think the unanimous ones, we may be able to just skip right over, but the other ones, I think, need to be decided.
Well, when we were doing these, we did talk about that. Anything that even like if like we have one of them, it was a 5-2. I might, at least in my head, I was saying, well, we can try to get consensus. We may not get there, but let's give it a shot, like one time. The only problem is that on all the ones, except for one of them, that were a 5-2 or a 6-1, at least someone who voted no isn't here, or the author isn't here, with the exception of one, and that is number 19, which was the one that I had said, that was a 6-1. And that's an important one because there was some strong disagreement on that.
Honestly, though, my opinion is if you're not at a meeting and we have a quorum, then that's, you're out of luck. We're a body and we need to move forward. We can't wait another month because somebody can't make it to the meeting. But we have a quorum, that means we can make decisions.
I don't disagree with that normally, but I just think if we're trying to reach consensus, we're not gonna get it all done today probably anyway. So what
Table
would,
some of these.
yeah, what would it hurt to just table a few of them? And then if we end up having more time and they're not here, too bad, then we can do it. But if we end up in the 40 minute, let's just do those last. That's what I'm suggesting.
Fine. So then what are we gonna do? Are we gonna take the unanimous items and write language?
I want to ask people, can I, on your idea, and I'll ask you first and then I'll open it up if that's okay.
Yeah.
Would it be better to start from our PCC member comments? Or would it be, and I don't have a good direction on this. I'm just asking you because I know there's two ways to look at it. Would it be better to start with the guidelines draft and then say, okay, what do we feel about the way that's written? And we already know there's a lot of correspondence in it. Then we can later go back and say, well, later we'd go back to the 1 through 19 to see what's missed, if
I don't
anything.
have an opinion because I think either way would work, honestly.
I think because. it's
Ask everybody else.
written- Yeah, I'll just stop there and then.
Yeah.
It's a good guideline, so I'm all for that.
For starting with the guideline document and
Yeah.
integrating our.
Yeah, because what we have is kind of a list, and this is more of a.
Right, it's all.
So
Yeah.
we can look at the guidelines draft document and read
So in-
one and say, how does that correlate to what we were talking about, and then go back to it.
So another question would,
I would really like to hear Gio's perspective on that.
Yeah, I think we spent quite a bit of time on our comments. It's time to address the draft guideline.
Okay, cool.
so in addressing the draft guideline, does the template or format of this seem like, I mean, we're not locked in here, but the way it's set up is commission rules and responsibilities, and then the advisory role, bullet points, program development, bullet points. So just be thinking about that as we're working through as well.
I already am. That's part of the reason that I wanted to use this as a template, because they've already done a lot of the organizational work. I would be fine using that, but making sure that our ideas get integrated.
So using those
Yeah, I think it's
names
fine.
and, okay. Any other thoughts around that as the template?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay,
That was great. I noticed there's a category down here, environmental stewardship, and it got me thinking that maybe we also need to be looking at the city council goals and how that and the larger category might inform some of these categories.
yeah, yeah.
And
Okay, what-
going along with that, I will say, I think the very last one, the Civic Campus Master Plan, that is like kind of time defined. I don't know if it's timeless, and we're creating a timeless document that will be for now and for, till they next redo this in 20 years. So I think that it's important that somehow we make sure that what's down there is included, but I don't know if the writing has to be included exactly like that, like Civic Campus Master Plan, because that's a one-time deal. It's going to be done in 3 years or 2 years or something like that, I guess. I don't know, maybe 5 years. but-
15 years.
Year?
15
Oh,
year
okay, then maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're valid that
Yeah.
it is perhaps needs to be a broader category.
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah, just change the language to make it more inclusive of
yeah.
what will happen next.
Yes, not just this master plan, but capital improvement.
Or what's it called? You guys on the committee. What is the community, what is it, the master?
Greater comments. Master.
Yeah, so if we were just to say greater comments, boom, like greater comments, like plans or something like that, well, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
a later date, but thank you for.
Yeah, no, that's very forward thinking. Good.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
But we don't need to discuss the membership composition paragraph, is in my opinion.
Wait,
Probably not, although last time when Craig was here, we did mention it and he was happy with changing the language a little bit so that it wouldn't, there was a concern addressed on the committee and he was cool with changing the language a little bit on that. I have that in my notes from last time.
It just talks about the number of members, and that's something that we needed to have a discussion about probably, so. Maybe we do need to start at
Yeah,
the,
maybe we do.
it's got the remote control for the heat. You turn it down again, roasting hot in here again.
You're just hot-blooded guy.
Okay, never mind, that's okay. I
Brilliant.
have it in layers. I just assumed everyone.
Well, on that one though, and maybe help me if I'm, especially Gio, because this was yours, on the 7 to 5, it was voted. That was a no vote. It was not approved.
If I recall at that meeting, there was many times when Adam and George said, as long as there's further discussion, then I will vote this way. So I don't think that those were tacit approval.
I'm cool with that. It's only a handful anyway, and,
Right.
okay, so we
Yeah,
can, let's just continue with that. I just wanted to point that
I
out.
think I want to continue with that because my memory of that is, yes, we had talked about it in the past meetings that 5 versus 7, there were reasons to have 7. We kind of left it there, but now we're looking at reasons to have 5. So I think let's jump in. So 5 and 7.
Ron just brought up the comment that, as long as we have a quorum, we're a body that's functioning. And if we're a 7 member commission, then if we have 5 people show up, we have a more democratic quorum than if we're a 5-member commission and 3 people show up.
Yeah.
I agree with part of that, but I also think that when you say more democratic, it's only democratic relative to this group. It's not more democratic relative to the community. I think if you have a larger group, that is more reflective of diverse viewpoints, or theoretically it would be. And there'd be more points of input potentially if you had a larger number. I mean, you could have 20 and you'd get nothing done because it's impossible, we're not, but so I think to me that there's a tension there. And I would land on I'd rather have it be a little more democratic to the community if it was possible to still run things well, than it would be to worry about, we have a couple of members out today, like Ron said, well, that's their choice. So I agree that it would for the commission, but that for me is not as compelling as other arguments might be for that.
I'm not following your distinction between democratic for the group and democratic for the community, because it does seem like the more commission members there are, the more community input you're gonna get.
That's
to
what I
those
think he's
pieces.
saying.
Oh, okay. I completely misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you were saying with 5, and if you had a group of 7, but only 5 showed up, that's not as democratic as if you had a group of 5 and 5 showed up. But that's not what you were saying there.
No, 5 and 3 showed up, yeah. I don't think we want,
It was
yeah,
a
if we have a group
quorum
of 5, a
concept.
quorum is 3 people, correct?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's very democratic to have necessarily 3 people decide something,
I would-
even if it's just advisory.
I agree with you and I withdraw everything I said, except for agreeing with you.
I'm glad you saved the last part.
It's like the judge who said, strike that from the record, you will ignore that.
Yeah.
You heard that, and you didn't hear it.
So, well, this certainly isn't an issue down on my sword over this. I have recognized, as I pointed out today, that 5 flows. It's really,
And
that's the upshot of my
Yeah,
feeling on this, is that every time we have a smaller group, it just flows better. Maybe that's a coincidence. I don't know. On the diversity issue, I think if we have a really diverse community, there would be an argument for a larger group. we do not have a diverse community. It's a bunch of white old people, basically.
I beg to differ because we don't have a diverse ethnic community, but we do have a very diverse economic and just idea or philosophic
Mindset.
mindset
Mindset.
communities. When I was saying it, that was what I was
Yeah.
referring to.
And I think that's valid. I still think that the level of diversity in this tiny little town is covered by.
It's not a big factor.
I don't know that we're gonna be missing out on people being represented. I have 5 instead of 7.
So,
It's, you know, I pointed out last week, you know, if Lincoln County can do it with 3, speaking of Democratic and representation, it's a gigantic county compared to Yachats. Somehow or another, the state thinks 3 people can do the job on a county commission. So, like I said, this is not. Really stress.
so I would just say that, I've always leaned towards having the larger size group for some of the reasons that have been discussed. However, today's meeting is giving me pause because this is by far the most efficient meeting we've ever had. And I don't know if that's directly why, but it's definitely been a breath of fresh air to see how this meeting has moved.
We haven't talked about pickleball once.
And
I would just remind the group that for several months, we were a group of 4.
right.
And I agree with you that today's meeting happens to be, for whatever reason, the most flowing one. It's probably because Neil's here. And, but whatever reason, but so when we had 4, I mean, theoretically, it should have been even more flowing. But I do like 5 as a number. My concerns are that with 7, you've got 2 people gone today and we can have a great meeting and we still have a lot of diversity and a lot of good opinions and ideas and a lot of expertise in different areas. If we have a panel of 5 and 2 are gone, gosh, we're down to 3 people. And what if one of them is me? And all of a sudden we got 1/3, like very little expertise, but you know, a lot of words. So I'm not sure if that is necessarily what we want. I think having 7 gives us more opportunities for expertise. And my last point to that would be this. We are a very wide, and I'm not sure where we're going to go, but assuming that we are something along the lines of what was put together on this, the guidelines document, pretty wide menu of things that we are discussing. It's a little wider in some respects than some of the other commissions. And so for us, I think that might be one of the reasons why this was made a 7-person commission to start with, because it is a little more diverse in terms of what you're talking about. It's almost unlimited, kind of. So that would be my reasoning for rather having a larger group, even though I agree with George that it can, there can be a little loss of efficiency.
So I would move that we take a vote on this right now.
Is there more discussion?
No?
I don't mind just leaving it open. I can draw it to.
No, I don't think you should withdraw.
No,
Unless you want to. I mean, that's up to you, you know.
Okay, I move that we continue to be a 7-person commission with the new guidelines.
I would second that.
I agree.
So, Director, are we voting? Or you have comments?
I just see both personally, and I'm hearing reasons to have 7 and reasons to not have 7, reasons to have 5. And, you know, I guess too, if we have 7, it gives more leeway. If we have 5, it gives less leeway and thinking of now and the future.
Leeway in what?
Personnel, like an example of today, we'd have a meeting with 3 people. So gives more buffer of input. And that's really the main reason that I'm in favor of 7. I love the 5, I love the 4 for the flow, for those.
4 is no good because you need to have a tiebreaker.
I understand, but just conceptually, the less has flowed, and I love flowing meetings too. Yeah.
Well, as efficiency goes, the ideal size of a committee is a committee of 1. Very effective committee. And I agree with that.
Be careful where you go with this.
You've already volunteered to leave twice, so hush. But I will bring up at least this point of, not so much of diversity of representing the community, but diversity of skill sets.
Well, yeah.
Of course, for example, I'm not gonna harp on the STAIR project, but if but if we were a committee of 5, you are in David. Let's say, for example, though, I like concrete examples. If we were a committee of 5 and the 2 that were missing was me and George, that committee would have, the commission would have no body on the staff that has any background in building trade.
So
You're an
Except for
electrician.
Ron. All right, order.
Ron has got game. Let me
He
say
got a
that.
game, I know he does.
So yeah, I mean, this is part of my, thought process too, more opportunity for viewpoints, expertise. Yeah,
So there's a motion on the floor,
It
Chairman.
was seconded.
all in favor?
Motion again, please.
I move that we can keep the commission as a 7-member group.
Thank you.
Dan seconded it.
May I add a tiny modifier? That it would require your approval because then it's still your motion. That we keep an open mind in the future as to looking at a 5, if it ever became sort of like really obvious to us that, boy, it'd really be better if it was 5. I think we should always keep that open.
Well, I think this document can be amended at any time, so I don't agree that that language should be put in.
Oh, not the language, just as a philosophy. That's all.
Well, another concept is that the commission will have what's the word I'm looking for? Attribution, folks leaving in the
Attrition.
attrition, thank you.
Yeah,
So we could reach a point where there has been some attrition and we can say, okay, what do we want to do now? Do we want to go out and seek people to make up that 7 again? Or do we want to go, wow, we are 5 all of a sudden?
That's not the intention of my motion.
Okay, well.
The intention of the motion is to have a body of 7. If people leave, we pick up more and we stay as a body of 7. And anything that we write today can still be amended at some point in the future.
Mhm.
okay.
Okay,
That's what my intention was when I made the motion.
so it's 7. So now we're
We
voting.
need to have a vote.
We should vote, yeah. So
Okay.
all in favor of
All in
Ron's
favor.
motion?
Motion passed.
Motion passed.
So in this same section, there's the exception of 1 member who may reside outside the city limits. I would like to put some parameters on that outside. I don't want anyone from Pittsburgh enjoying zooming in.
Oh, that's a
great
That's a good.
They should reside within the zip code, right? So-
Yeah, I think that sounds good. So what if we can, and yeah, city council has to approve it. What if that, it said, with the exception of 1 member who resides outside city limits, but within 9747 to 498. Okay,
That's a good one.
excellent.
And we can integrate these into the primary document later, once we've decided what's going in.
Yeah.
So we don't have to figure out where is that now gonna fit in the guidelines document.
Right.
True.
And just to an earlier point, since I have it written here and I'm seeing it, the part that was objected to last time, at the Parks and Commons Commission, PCC shall consist of 7 members appointed by the mayor. And what Craig said he was okay with, I don't, he did say it, so hopefully it's still okay. He said, shall consist of 7 members approved by the city council and appointed by the mayor. So just changing the order of it.
I don't understand why it says appointed by the mayor.
Because officially, I think it might be part of the state
The mayor.
regulation thing.
Government.
Right, but now that it's not, why do we need to put that in there? I can't see why the mayor, the only thing that he has, the only jurisdiction he has is as a voting member of the council to approve the people that we appoint.
Why don't we ask Craig about that one? Because it might be one of those things that's written in the,
You mean that young guy with?
that young guy right there with the darker hair. Here he is.
Hi, Greg.
That is throughout the city charter. The mayor, the order is insignificant. the mayor does a lot of things. The mayor signs all the official documents. Mayor signs all the resolutions. It's all contingent on approval of the city council. So I suggest not spending a lot of time on that. You'll be at odds with every other commission. You'll be at odds with the city council in terms of resolutions. It's just not something that I see as, excuse me, as significant.
So you're suggesting we leave it in?
Yeah, it's the same in all the other charters
Okay.
and all the other commissions. And it's the same, it's in our charter. It's how it operates. If you want to change the charter of the city, that takes a vote of the people.
That's okay.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, answers that one. All right, so now back to the guidelines document along with the member comments. So the first one reads, ready? The commission serves as an advisory body to the city council and staff on matters affecting city parks, open spaces, and commons facilities. It provides input and recommendations for developing and maintaining these facilities and reports any major repair needs or safety issues to staff. Is there anything about that we should discuss and or add to or delete or revise?
I find one thing confusing,
Okay.
and that is the inclusion of quote, open spaces. Because the last time we got together, I believe I was asking some questions and it was like, we do parks and the greater commons, but there was no expansion of that, beyond that. And I'm not against expansion of that because I think this board needs to have a big oversight view at least. But what do we mean by open spaces?
Bobby, would you please answer that one?
When I was reviewing this, I was really reviewing it through the lens of the Parks and Commons maybe evolving beyond just the parameter of specifically Parks and Commons and maybe more community spaces purview, so that there would be the voice and the parties, like you guys just jumped in on the conversation about the Ocean View Drive and the delineators, is that provides another public body for us to have that conversation with, more public input and engagement. So I think that just when I was really looking at this, I was looking at it through that lens, is maybe broadening the scope beyond just Parks and Commons specifically.
Could it include, or even say, or not say, but just mean anything that the city owns and or has, like, what's the word, like power, jurisdiction over?
And like there's comment in here about property acquisition and the conversation that we just had a little bit earlier regarding city goals and creating property acquisition guidelines, and how it just kind of folds together and brings in just a little bit more purview of city's open spaces or community spaces, city-owned property.
So city-owned or regulated, but that would be, because we don't have, there's no purview beyond that. I mean, it can't be legally, so.
That's roadways.
Or private residents. Yeah.
So your definition does lean more towards the old English commons use, as in the common spaces that we all use. Okay, I like it.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering if we're broadening our scope to the point where we're going to have more to do than we can. So do we really want to broaden what our guidelines are to include more things than we already think we're overseeing?
I think that you don't have to do everything at once.
Right.
Right, but this is a document for
Mhm.
decades, so if it's in here, then it's something that we are supposed to do
Yeah,
ongoing.
I agree with that, absolutely, but I think that not everything has to be tackled all at once, things can be phased out, things can be addressed in different timeframes, ways, and
Like one example, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've recently have begun looking at reports from keeping Yahat's Beautiful and the Understage and the Estuary Boardwalk project. We may have other ones that come up like Little Log Museum. We could have the new the new
Library?
property, what's the lady's?
Leroy's,
Oh, the Peterson.
The
Memorial
Peterson
Garden.
Memorial, so, and those would be, like, if it's
Right.
open spaces, that would be there. But I mean, beyond that, I don't imagine us doing anything, and I don't know if it would be too much. It might, but I don't know. I don't feel that we wouldn't be able to handle it, but I think it's a good question.
as a commissioner, I don't really want to be, as a Parks and Commons commissioner, I don't really want to be overseeing the Little Log Church Museum. I don't really want to be overseeing the library. You know, I want to be overseeing the Parks and Commons. That's why I joined this group. That's what's important to me. And so that's my perspective on that.
I don't think we should be overseeing the management of the Little Log Church or,
But we don't manage anything, so I just throw.
well, I know, but I mean, I would like to see us have the ability to have input on a big picture. Okay, like I said, when I joined this, I thought we were using the Old English Commons definition. And we don't have to necessarily work on any of these things, but it'd be nice if somebody asked our opinion, you know? So this is what we're doing over the Little Log Church. Do you guys have anything you want to say about it? No, it's good. Go with it. That might be all we have to do.
It might be, yeah.
And I want to just add that the evolution of the city, the evolution of commissions in general, and keeping an openness to that, both directions, yes or no on projects. George?
I wanted to remind us, Rosa was here and she was saying, but the Little Log Museum is gonna be an event space. So it's closer to the commons than you might be thinking of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a good point that she brought up because it is an integrated part of the whole city's
Sure.
space. I did want to point out that at the very end of this document, it says community space, library of Little Log Church.
That was just to keep it
Yes,
as an option,
Just to-
thinking about it.
Which I-
if- Does it fit, you know, are those work groups that they are part of a work group report that gets reported here as the public, interface of where a report from those type of work groups would come to. You know, Rosa, she is our community spaces coordinator, and she will be the kind of oversight over at the Little Log Church Museum when it opens, working with the Friends of the Little Log Church Museum, working with volunteers similar to the structure at the library. And she is your city liaison, and you are who she's gonna come to for support. And there might be people on the commission as a group of 7 that might have more specific interest in one area of the city's workings than the other, you know, as the evolution of the group. Maybe it would be smart to invite a member that has been sitting on the Little Log Church Museum to be a member of the Parks and Commons Commission. I'm not saying this has to happen, I'm just thinking bigger picture, of how that could work together. Maybe it simply is just that this is where the, work group report comes to be part of a public document. You know, it could be as simple as that. It's just something that you're being aware of.
Yeah.
So-
You don't have to do necessarily much, but you're aware of what's happening.
So I have another perspective, and that is the very first comment on our comments matrix is rename the commission. So maybe we should take that up first. And the reason I'm thinking is if we become the Public Spaces Commission, then that would inherently change what our purview would be by name. Whereas calling us the Parks and Commons Commission and then saying, well, we're also the Little Log Church Commission, we're the Library Commission, we're the Acquire New Property Commission. You know, what are we? Where is maybe our title should be in line with what our guidelines are gonna say. So I would like to bring that back up, and we had a 5-2 vote on it, but we didn't have suggestions for what we might name.
I just want to, oh, go ahead. You had your hand up.
I'd like to ask Bobby if she feels that Public Spaces Commission would cover the scope of what she sees us doing.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was community spaces.
Okay?
And then that would align even with Rosa's titles, community spaces coordinator.
So I just want to get back to, I was actually leading somewhere with my question about the library being on this list. They have a commission, so that's not really part of our deal, is it?
Not at this moment, it's not, but it could, as we are a growing and evolving spaces, that could be something that changes. I think that they are working to grow their commission right now, but they're also really taking a deep look at what their commission is and what their role is, and which I think is a common thread right now. And really the deepest, they've changed things a little bit from kept really planning and building the library to now, that they've handed that over to the city staff, and while they're still engaged in the process, no, it's not their focus, now reevaluating their focus. Is position what they want, or maybe they want a little something more flexible, like a work group that could be meeting and having coffee with Tracy and reporting to another body.
I have a question, Bobby.
Yes.
Doesn't the library have a paid employee?
Yes.
Okay.
I would just, on that, I would just like to comment that I would not want to be the library commission. I really wouldn't be, but I'd love it to have the library work group report to us. That would be fine. I think that makes a lot of sense saying that, but going back to some other ideas we had here, I agree with Ron that this might be a good thing to tackle either first or last.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the two. I don't want it to be
Yeah.
sort of like so directed that, oh, we can't go outside of that, but
But then
it might
again,
feel
maybe that
better.
Would be good.
Yeah,
Maybe if we did have a title, then that would create a natural boundary that would make it easier to decide which of these things fit under that community spaces title.
I think of writing a book. Do authors title their book first or last?
Last, I think.
Man,
Well, and yeah, and it's just like, what was the answer? I'm gonna skip what I was gonna say, but I did wanna bring up the other point is there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the Little Log Church, and the commission can handle all of it. I would like to see us have at least an advisory role in, for a better way to put it, how the Little Log Church integrates with the rest of the community spaces. That's how I see it. I would like to see just bigger overview, not more workload, but just who's doing what over there? Do we like it? Do we have any comment? And once we have a comment, take our comment, go do something. So I
Yeah.
don't see it as a lot more
Yeah.
work for us to do necessarily, but
With the library, Little Log Church in past years, they've kind of been almost their own entities.
Mhm.
And it's really important for me to bring them into the fold under the city's purview directly in various city departments of the city. The Little Log Church, we're investing a lot into that right now, into the rehabilitation of that and getting that up and going, having a city staff being there, having direct connection to the displays that are being set up, how it's being used, marketing it for rentable space, using it to help it be used as much as possible. Checking in on all of its workings, making sure that their renters are getting checked in and checked out, and things like that, just really integrating it fully into the city's spaces and departments.
But integrating them into the city doesn't mean integrating them into our commission. To me, this isn't the city, this is one commission. And, integrating them to you guys and for overview and all that makes sense to me. Having them be integrated into the Community Spaces Commission.
Well,
Well, they are a community space.
So, well,
Yeah,
I wouldn't want us to get involved in like their choices or their decisions at all. I think in terms of, when I think of community spaces and I think about Little Log Museum or the library, I think of more like, where does a community go and how can we make sure that they're sort of like, they're thematic, so like one doesn't stick out like a sore thumb, so that they're all friendly, they're all ADA, they're all inclusive and very, very friendly, and they all look good. To me, it's more of almost like a skin that I'd be interested in participating in. I'm not interested in getting involved in operating and surgically and all that stuff on them. Parks, I feel differently about, but when it comes to something like that, I wouldn't be for it. But if it's just like, well, community and tourists go there, how can we make it inviting? Yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, as a focus.
And I'm certainly not advocating for management. I'm advocating for communication.
right.
To where we do know what's going on. We don't have to necessarily do anything about it. But if we know what's going on, then if one of us does have some good input, then they can be given that input.
But
You know?
that could happen without it having anything to do with our commission. You can find out what's going on there and you can have input as a citizen. You don't have to be on this commission to do any of the things that you just said you would like to do. If you want to have input on a project that the city's doing, as a citizen, you have every right to have input.
But you need a forum for that.
Yeah, you need.
Is this the forum?
Well, here's,
Yeah, that is
this
exactly.
is just an example that I thought of. I'm not attached to anything personally. The idea with what Dan said is like identifying a space and what happens there. So like there's been discussion since the Commons is our purview currently, that we have a lounge, let's say, for seniors to go hang out and have coffee and chat and get to know each other. So part of this, as I see it, is the community spaces. Maybe that's something that might want to go on, say, at the library. We might want to know about that so we don't duplicate a thing that's in the Commons because we don't know what the library's doing. So I agree with what you said, just the broad overview of communication and who's doing what.
And if we knew what the library was doing, we could say, oh my God, you folks might want to do the lounge for the seniors instead of us.
Exactly.
So all I'm talking about really is communication. And I'll refer back to my black hole comment of like, where's this shit coming from and where's it going? I want to know where it's coming from and where it's going. I don't have to drive it all, but I want to be able to wave when it goes by.
In consideration of time, this is such a great conversation. Thank you, everyone. This is like.
With five.
Well, we know the two aren't here, so
It's also, we're. Yeah.
I'm happy to not come to the next.
Lots of overture.
we'll talk about that later, Ron, after you leave.
In consideration of time, there's two things. One, can we agree to, instead of looking at renaming the PCC at this moment, can we maybe keep that in mind as different things and let all of what we do inform us as to what we should end up naming it?
I have no problem with that.
Okay, and then the second thing is, unless I'm wrong, I think that everyone felt that the very first thing, that's where the commission serves as an advisory body to the city, everyone, I think, said that was okay. Can we do a fast motion on that to say if we agree with that and unless we want to revise it?
So are you asking us to approve the language as it reads?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
I'm not
As
ready.
it reads, including open spaces?
yes.
Yeah, I'm not ready to approve it, the language.
Not open spaces, no. You came up with, what the hell did you say?
City's ownership and properties in city's ownership and jurisdiction
Oh, okay.
to
Okay.
clarify open spaces.
Okay, so I don't want, okay, I just was hoping to get one thing. It's okay.
Barometer
We
check.
did get one thing. We agreed that we were gonna be a body of 7.
Okay, no, I didn't mean, yeah, you're right, you're right. So then, how about this? We're looking at time. I'm gonna write down what you just said, because you're right. That is a little more clear, and I think we probably have pretty good agreement on that. And then when we start next in May, when we begin talking about this, we'll start on this, paragraph or phrase. And it'll read instead of open spaces, it'll say the thing that I said, that you just said.
Or how about community spaces? Because that's what we're talking about, naming it. That's what.
Okay, I'm cool with that. And, if no one objects, it'll say.
City
instead of
manager
open
likes it.
Community spaces. We know what that means, I think.
All of it.
Instead of open
She
space,
likes it all. She wrote the.
she wrote it. Well, she's
Yeah, yeah.
biased. She's gotta go.
She's totally biased.
I suggested instead of open spaces that we just say community spaces.
Okay,
Okay.
Gio.
There might be an opportunity for an addendum at this that actually defines the spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's easily updated
Mhm.
so that it would be specific about what our purview,
Mhm.
actual places that our purview pertains to and those that don't.
Which totally belongs in this document anyway.
Yes, it does. We need.
Literally.
List.
Oh, like definitions, like that kind of a thing?
Just a list of the places.
The actual places, the commons.
Oh,
building, the
right,
church, if the library that's gonna be in it, name all the parks.
And then,
So that it's not open spaces, what does that mean?
okay,
Kind of.
Yeah,
These spaces that are specifically listed here.
defines.
I like it.
Okay.
So one more comment that I'd like to put out there. Somebody just said that, you know, the commons, you know, we're in charge of the commons. Well, are we? Why is commons even in our title? Rosa and the city manager are running the commons. We are not running the commons.
We're an advisory board to that process.
What are we advising on? We're not advising on much of it. Most of it's happening without us doing anything.
well, that's one of the points of
Is it-
expanding.
is that true? What are we doing in regards to, you know, advising on the commons?
In the-
We could call the commons part of the community space. I mean,
No,
it is.
But I'm specifically saying
Yeah.
that this building is part of our title. And,
Mhm.
you know, I've been on the commission over 2 years and we hardly do anything.
We do budgeting. It's-
There you go.
No, it's not.
No, you're right. You're right. We do.
Budget, we're defining all the CIP.
Just, it's almost like just a point of, you know, what are we really doing and what should we be called based on that? That's why I brought that.
Oh, we're working on that, so.
Right. I just wanted to add that into the thinking.
Okay, so for next time, we're gonna start here, and I think we'll get through that first phrase pretty fast, because we'll put community spaces, we'll vote on it. And then I think we should, to Gio's idea, we should start the addendum page. And, you know, anytime we have to add to it, we will. Right now, I wrote down what Gio said, which is it would include all parks, city-owned buildings, spaces, areas that the city owns and has jurisdiction over. We can make that sound better, but something like that. Is that what you had in mind? And then we can, and there might be other things that we want to add, like, we'll be doing this, I'm pretty sure, with the, when we get to the noxious weed. We're likely gonna have an addendum because noxious weeds change over time and stuff like that. It would be a similar kind of a deal. Okay.
Yeah.
It's city-owned.
What was the
I
question?
didn't.
City Hall, does it?
When I was.
No, that's an administrative place.
It's yeah.
Yeah, it's not a community.
It still has a bill, it still has a lawn, has trees, a sidewalk around it. I mean, it's still a place that people go.
And the civic campus is part of that.
Yeah, why wouldn't it include that? It wouldn't have to do, nothing with the management of it, just with the kind of, almost like the aesthetic of it.
Good point, George. Yeah, if
So landscaping, but not building.
if the
Yeah.
meeting
Yeah,
space
not
ends up,
like the internal.
No,
No.
no, well, that wouldn't be our purview though.
I'm not volunteering for that.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, very nice,
Motion to adjourn?
very nice.
How many people do we have there?
last time I checked, we had 9. Bob left. That doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, you gotta, that's right. We got Kimmy, we got Bobby.
We're gonna move item 4 to our May meeting on the public education for the Wetlands Boardwalk. On the back of our agenda, updates on previous business. Is there anything burning we need to know?
You know, the master has no meetings really since.
Yeah,
Oh, good. Okay. I mean, not good, but nothing.
right.
When's the next one? Advisory and then the city.
Pretty-
Who's there in Canada?
I don't know what our advisory is. Wait, maybe the 11th?
I was looking through my notes trying to find it. And I couldn't find it.
11th, maybe 11th at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's coming right up. Great.
11, okay.
And then, the next public one is May 14th.
Meg and I are gone again.
Okay,
All right.
Missed that one.
Okay.
April 11th and May 14th.
you could
That
call
was on
in.
purpose.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be hiking on the Nepali coast.
So, call in.
I will not have Wi-Fi.
Thank you for those dates. Great. And then lastly, it was asked by one of our commissioners to give a brief chair report on what we've been working on in the month. So to that, in March, we met with Mayor Birdie to begin background discussion on the noxious weed policy, and that's the only other meeting. Okay,
Great.
Okay.
okay,
Thank you,
well
everyone.
done. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We did it once, we'll do it every single time.
Sure.
Have a great meeting.
Michelle or Fisher?
Fast and Whatever, like efficient. It was so cool.
Don't look at me. She asked for it.
She did? When she looks right at me,
You just felt like